Hey everyone, I'm Albert Boris. Wave 2 has finally been announced, hallelujah! Unfortunately, right when it was announced, I was on a week-long trip to Gothland, sunbathing on the Tofte beach, so I couldn't make a reaction video to it. Even if I did have a very negative feeling within me, because only 2 of my predictions made it in, and I was 1 track away from putting them in their correct places. Hey, at least it's better than Bertel's measly 1 correct choice. So now I'm going to do the next best thing, predict the remaining waves now that we know about wave 2. I'll be honest, this is gonna be a lot easier than I originally thought it would. Why? Because prior to wave 2, the console prefixes for all the upcoming courses were actually leaked. And would you know, those prefixes were actually correct for wave 2. Wait, does that mean every non-prefix track is gonna be an original course? Jeez, I think this may be a lot harder than I thought. But you know what, a lot of those unprefixed courses were also in the later waves, which leads me to believe that while some of them may be original courses, Nintendo may also just not have decided on them all yet. I mean, I doubt the Acorn Cup is gonna have just the 1 single retro track. So yeah, with that being said, let's get started with the Rock Cup of Wave 3. Firstly, all cups will start with a tour city track. That's something we always knew, even before the prefix leaks. And for the Rock Cup, I think it will be London Loop. I did originally predict it for the Turnip Cup back in my Wave 2 predictions, but that was before I knew Nintendo didn't care if a city track had free variants yet or not. I thought they'd just pick the nightless free variant courses and save the night-themed one for a night-themed cup, but that was completely mistaken seeing as they added Sydney Sprint so early. And to be honest, it's not entirely a bad thing because London Loop I've always thought would be much better off in this cup. Thematically, it's colder than the other city courses with the cloudy setting, but more importantly, the music is the definition of rock, with all those electric guitars. Honestly, it would be such a missed opportunity to not include it here. But then again, Sydney Sprint was robbed of its rightful place in the Boomerang Cup, so who knows. But it was also one of the first city tracks in Mario Kart Tour, so I think it's about time we introduce it back. For the next 3 courses, we're gonna have a DS, GBA and 3DS course as revealed by the leak. This is gonna be fun. We can predict anything as long as it's from these games and fitting for this wave. The second course from Mario Kart DS will no doubt be DK Pass. It's not so much that I want it, I'd rather see Luigi's Mansion or Delfino Square, but Wave 3 being winter themed should obviously have some snowy tracks. It doesn't have to be the whole cup, I mean Wave 2 wasn't that particularly summer themed either, but at least 1 track. And DK Pass would do the job fine. It's already been in Mario Kart Tour, so they have the assets ready, and it's not too ambitious. I care more about what they'll bring back for the GBA spot. Apparently there's gonna be a lot of Game Boy Advance remakes for this Booster Couse Pass, which I don't mind at all. That game had some of the most out of the blue and out of the box levels in the entire series, and their remakes in this game are so unrecognizable in a good way. Just look at Snowland. Nobody expected this in Wave 2, and yet it looks like it's going to be one of my favorite remakes ever of an underrated track. Unfortunately, I don't think the GBA track of Wave 3 will be as good. Obviously there will be 1 or 2 retro Bowser Castle tracks in this DLC. After all, there were none of them in the base game, and Super Circuit is the game most known for its Bowser Castles. I mean, it's got 4 of them. So I'm picking a GBA Bowser Castle here, the second one in particular. I didn't want to pick it, I'd much rather see the 4th one as it's a lot more ambitious and hasn't been remade yet, but tell that to Mario Circuit 4. This one just seems a little more likely considering it already has a remake in Tour, and is moderately difficult unlike the first one. As for the last course, it's obviously gonna be Alpine Pass from Mario Kart 7. Seriously, it's the Rock Cup, and the American name for this course is literally Rock Mountain. If they don't bring this course back for the Rock Cup, life is just a dream. Now we head over to the Moon Cup. Now I'm not entirely sure which city track will make it. My inner voice says it's Vancouver Velocity as it's been out in Tour for a while and will probably get a further variant soon, but then I remember how Sydney Sprint made it in with no sign of getting a further version anytime soon. So you know what, I'm going with Singapore Speedway instead, which is also night themed. Coincidentally enough, the Ocean Tour of Mario Kart Tour, which was released on the same day as Wave 2 was announced, secretly added Singapore Speedway 2 to the game as well. Is this a hint? I don't know, but I fear that this overrated track will make it before Vancouver does. The next 3 courses, however, are easy to predict. GCN Dino Dino Jungle, Merry Mountain and 3DS Rainbow Road. This would just make so much sense. Dino Dino Jungle is a semi-difficult course that in both of its previous incarnations was the second track of the last cup in a row of cups. And likewise, the Moon Cup is at the end of a row of cups. Of course, in that case, it could be in the Spinning Cup as well, but I think that one should be reserved for a slightly more ambitious track. Dino Dino Jungle is better off early here in Wave 3, I think. Merry Mountain is an original tour track, as in not based around the city. Being Christmas themed, it's obviously gonna be in either Wave 3 or 6. In my opinion, it would fit being the second to last track, as it's not epic enough to end off a cup, but ambitious enough to not be an opening track. The reason I picked Wave 3 over 6 for this course is mostly because I think Wave 6, being the last one in the entire DLC, should have an even more ambitious Christmas themed course, as I don't think Merry Mountain is crazy enough to be all the way over there, even if it's amazing. This course is also why I didn't predict Vancouver Velocity for this cup, since both are snow themed and aesthetically similar. We all need some variety. And of course, the last course has to be 3DS Rainbow Road. Seriously, everything points towards it. It's the Moon Cup, it's the final cup of a row, and it's a 3DS track. How can this not be the one? Some of you may say it's too ambitious for such an early cup, but I think it would be a nice follow-up to Merry Mountain. A slightly ambitious track should be followed by one of the most ambitious tracks of all time. Besides, it's the final course in a row of cups. I will be sincerely disappointed if this track does not make it here. And so Wave 3 is complete. It's definitely gonna be one of the best waves of the bunch, even if my predictions aren't 100% correct. Unfortunately, after the epic holiday wave, we get to what is probably gonna be a rather simple spring wave. Wave 4 opens up the second row of cups, like the Shell Cup usually does, and so I believe it will hold some of the more easy tracks. But I mean, Wave 1, despite being the first one, was still kind of ambitious, so I have my hopes up. For the Fruit Cup, the city track should be Berlin Byways. This course has a really distinct starting the journey vibe for me. I don't know if it's the super fresh and bumpy music or the bustling atmosphere, but I have a feeling it's gonna start off with Berlin Byways. It just feels right to start the first wave of a new year with a banger, to not make the wave seem boring. The second track is from Mario Kart Wii. Now, I do have a feeling that this could be a circuit, seeing it's the first cup of a new row, and that has always meant at least one circuit. However, I sincerely hope that won't be the case this time. Berlin Byways already feels more like a circuit than a lot of city tracks do, so I think that's enough. Instead, I'm picking one of my favorite courses from Mario Kart Wii, Koopa Cape. The atmosphere is safe enough to pass off as a beginner track, even if the course itself is somewhat difficult, and the waterfall aesthetic would be fitting for a springtime wave, because you know, ice caps in the mountain melt, leading to waterfalls. So yeah, let's move on to the third course, a DS one. I'm picking Luigi's Mansion. It's a bit of the opposite to Koopa Cape. The atmosphere is very spooky and ambitious, but the track itself is relatively easy, which isn't surprising since it's a Mushroom Cup course. It also has potential to have some of the best visuals of all the courses in this DLC, because even in Mario Kart Tour, it looked absolutely stunning when other tracks didn't. So yeah. And the last track is actually gonna be an original one, like Sky High Sunday and Merry Mountain. And I have no idea what it could be, but I'll try to come up with something. You know what? Because it's so close to the Boomerang Cup, whose emblem is themed after a traditional Australian invention, I'm gonna predict an Australian themed track here. I'm gonna call it Omnimus Outback. It could be like, you know, the Australian desert in the sunset, you know, red sand, mild vegetation, Uluru in the scenery, and maybe some ghosts, because you know, Omnimus Outback. Maybe even have some kangaroos you need to avoid on the road. Why not even make a reference to Swiftjar? I don't know, something like that. It could be cool, so that's my prediction. And after that is the unfortunately named Boomerang Cup. I say unfortunately because it won't have Sydney Sprint. Why you gotta do this, Nintendo? Instead, it will for some reason have 2 city tracks. Well, that's certainly interesting. One at the start and one at the end. Hey, at least that means more city tracks, which is always nice. One of them is no doubt gonna be Amsterdam Drift, since it's very spring with the tulips and the windmills and whatnot. The second one I think will be a new city track we haven't seen yet in Mario Kart Tour. I would love a Brazilian themed track based around Rio de Janeiro. Call it Rio Runaways. You could drive on the beach, on the mountains, glide over the Christ the Redeemer statue. It would be nice, especially since we don't have any South American city tracks yet. It's all just Europe or Asia so far. The remaining 2 tracks are a GameCube and Game Boy Advance course. For the GameCube pick, I think it's gonna be Waluigi Stadium. Not only has it already been leaked, but while it is an amazing course, it's also one of the more simpler tracks. No big jumps, no difficult turns. It's a really simple track, yet a great one, just like I think Wave 4 will be, so it's better off here. For the Game Boy Advance track, I'm picking Cheep Cheep Island. This is one of the most underrated tracks in the entire series. It's so beautiful, yet so creepy, with the sunset, the bridges going over a lake inhabited by these creepy monsters. Besides, there are no beach-themed levels in this DLC yet, or in my prediction, so this will be my first one. And now we're done with Wave 4. It ended up being slightly more ambitious than I originally thought. Wave 5 is probably gonna be even more ambitious, as it's the 2023 variant of Wave 2, which so far also looks better than Wave 1. Interestingly enough, the Feather Cup here appears like it's also gonna have 2 city tracks like the Boomerang Cup. The opening track I think will be another new city track that's not announced yet, Cairo Circuit. For some reason, we do not have any African-themed city tracks yet in Mario Kart Tour, so once again I think it's about time we get one, and Cairo would be the most optimal choice as a lot of people know about it. Not only that, but the pyramids have even been on the Mario Kart Tour poster ever since it was first released, so it's probably gonna come sooner or later. And this cup would be a nice place for it as it is the summer wave. The other city track could be Bangkok Rush. Sunset themed courses are better off at the end of cups rather than the start, since the twilight symbolizes the end and this is the most twilightish summer track out there. I'll be surprised if it's not here. The other 2 courses this time around is another Wii and GBA track. The GBA one is obviously gonna be Sunset Wilds. Wait, I already had a Sunset course. Oh, but who cares? It's called Sunset Wilds, but that's because every lap the sun goes down, down and down until it's night. It's really ambitious that way, and they already have the assets ready for Mario Kart Tour, so it wouldn't be difficult to port over. The Wii course can be Toad's Factory. It's one of the most popular courses of all time that's never been remade, so it's about time it gets some justice. And that's the Feather Cup. The Cherry Cup on the other hand only has 1 city track. In place of the second city track is another Tour original, which I've probably never even heard of. And here I thought this Booster Couse Pass would be retro tracks only. But anyways, the city track should be the only summer themed course left, Los Angeles Laps. I'm surprised they didn't add it for Wave 2, as it already has 3 versions, but I mean I'm not too surprised as it's a pretty ambitious city track. Each variant is completely different from the other, with only a few similarities shared, so it might have been too much for Wave 2. Either way, it will come sooner or later, and I think the Cherry Cup is a worthy cup for it. The traditional retros this time around is a GameCube and SNES track. How coincidental to include both of the games that did not have a track in Wave 1. I think we'll see Daisy Cruiser and Vanilla Lake 2. I thought we'd see Daisy Cruiser in Wave 2 since it's relatively easy, and it was released in Mario Kart Tour on the same day that Wave 2 was announced. But I digress, there's still a second chance here in the second summer wave. Vanilla Lake 2 might be a little more random for me to pick, since this is a summer themed wave and Vanilla Lake 2 is ice themed. I don't think Nintendo agrees with you. I'm picking 2 over 1 specifically because the lake makes it a little more interesting. And besides, it's already kind of been leaked, so yeah. The last track seems to be another original course, but I have no idea what to make of it, since there aren't many of them even released to begin with. But I'll think of something. I know, how about a course that takes you through a laboratory with a bunch of different unexplainable gadgets? Since this cup symbol is a double cherry, an item that gives you a doppelganger, it's only right that this original tour track is themed after something similar. Because in real life, the only way to get a doppelganger would be through some random lab experiment, if that's even possible. I'm calling it Lunatic Laboratory, and that is Wave 5. And at last, we get to Wave 6. This is no doubt gonna feature some of the craziest and most ambitious courses in the entire series. The opening course is no doubt gonna have to be another unknown city track, and I just know which one. As a person living in Sweden, I would like to see a course themed after Stockholm. Since this wave is no doubt gonna release in the winter and Sweden is a land far up north, it would make sense. But you also know how most city track names are alliterations, as in 2 words that begin with the same letter? Yes, that's right. The real reason I want this course is so that it could be called Stockholm Syndrome. Like seriously, that would be perfect. And next up is a Wii track. I think we both know which course I'm going to predict. If it's in an ambitious wave and the cup emblem is an acorn, you know, something that grows on trees, the signature track has to be Maple Treeway. No questions asked. And the next two courses are both original tour tracks? Okay, I refuse to believe that. It would make sense if there was one original tour track per wave, but 3 of them in one wave? No way. I think they just haven't planned it all out yet. I've decided to replace the third track in the Wave 6 Cups with an N64 track, since we barely have any of those in this DLC. And in the Acorn Cup, the third track can be Frappe Snowland. In my opinion, one of the most unique tracks in the entire series. It's got such a different feel from other courses with the snowstorm, night sky, and lack of organic life forms. Yeah. And in my opinion, if Chaco Mountain makes it into a game, Frappe Snowland has to follow foot. They were both 2 Flower Cup courses in Mario Kart 64 named after a food, and they both returned together in Mario Kart DS and Tour, so I would honestly be saddened if only Chaco Mountain made it to this DLC. The ending track will be another Tour original track, preferably also holiday themed. I already used up Merry Mountain for Wave 3, so I'll have to think of something else, something even more chaotic. How about Santa's Toy Works? It could basically be you driving through the North Pole, through the toy factory, and in the end, you could maybe glide over the Arctic Ocean. I'd like to think we'll see a track like this in Wave 6. It would undoubtedly be more ambitious than Merry Mountain. And so we have the last cup of the DLC, the Spinny Cup, or Spiny, whatever you call it. No doubt it's gonna be a difficult one. Maybe not an all-out Rainbow Road Cup, but it's still gonna be fine. There's only one city track left in the list now, Vancouver Velocity, and it's luckily gonna fit perfectly into this cup. Let's put you there. For the GameCube course, I decided to pick the craziest one, Wario Colosseum, the only 2-lap track in the series prior to Mario Kart Tour. This track is madness, jumps, twists, turns, and it's so long. I definitely think this would be a fitting track for this cup. For the third track, as I said, I've decided to do another N64 track. Not just because it's underrepresented in this DLC, but also because the N64 has the best Bowser Castle in the entire series. These kinds of tracks have always been the second to last one in each Mario Kart game after Super Circuit, so obviously that would kind of have to be the case here as well. And this has always been one of the most unique Bowser castles. It's not as chaotic as the other ones, it's more mysterious, like most tracks are in Mario Kart 64. It's an actual castle you could live in, with hallways and courtyards. It's so creepy, and that's exactly why I want it back. And the last track is a Wii one. We all know which one is gonna make it. Wii Rainbow Road is definitely not as ambitious as the 3DS version, but it's no doubt the most beautiful one aside from the GBA version. It would be a perfect way to end the entire DLC, as you'd think about all the memories you had with it. Assuming you don't have to think about driving, since this is also the most difficult Rainbow Road aside from the GBA version, which would also make it fit here. The hardest track of all time ends the DLC. And so those were all of my predictions for the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass. But what are your predictions? If you like this video then please make sure to like, share and subscribe to my channel as I talk about everything Mario related. With that being said, I'm signing off.